Fostering Identity Affirming Spaces in Kindergarten to Grade 3 Levels, presented by Victoria, Melissa, Shelby, Krista, Sandy, Siobhan, Ashlyn, and Brittany. Ontario Tech University acknowledges the lands and people of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. We are thankful to be welcomed on these lands in friendship. The lands we are situated on are covered under the Williams Treaties and the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabeg Nation, including Algonquin, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. These lands remain home to a number of Indigenous nations and people. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the Indigenous nations who have cared for Turtle Island, also called North America, from before the arrival of settlers until this day. Most importantly, we remember the history of these lands has been tainted by poor treatment and lack of friendship with the First Nations who call them home. This history is something we are all affected by, as we are all treaty people in Canada. We all have a shared history to reflect on, and each of us is affected by this history in different ways. Our past defines our present, but if we move forward as friends and allies, then it does not have to define our future. What are identity-affirming spaces? Identity-affirming classrooms are learning spaces that actively support and validate students' diverse identities by fostering a sense of belonging and respect for their cultures, backgrounds, and lived experiences. These classrooms are designed to promote intellectual engagement, psychological safety, and emotional well-being through physical space, instructional materials, and how teachers interact with students. The physical layout, cultural representations, and intentional co-construction with students reflect and celebrate their identities, creating environments that make learners feel seen, valued, and intellectually stimulated. What defines an identity-affirming space? Support identity and development, safety and respect, intentional practices, adaptability, reflection and critical thinking, and promotes belonging and engagement.
Solution 1: Professional development for educators. Professional development gives teachers the chance to really learn about identity, bias, and inclusive teaching. It helps everyone in the school develop a shared language and have the same expectations around inclusion. It encourages us to pause and reflect on our own assumptions and decisions in the classroom. Especially in K to 3, this matters because children and students are just starting out to understand and beginning to understand who they are. Overall, professional development helps us make more thoughtful choices that support every child and student to feel seen and valued. With professional development around identity, educators are able to build stronger empathy and have more confidence towards using identity-affirming strategies in their classrooms. They start reflecting on their own identities and biases and understand how these impact their own teaching strategies as well as their spaces. They rethink their practice, asking things such as, whose voices are we centering in the classroom? Feeling more prepared to make real changes that help create inclusive classrooms, they ultimately build better relationships and have stronger allyship with students by really listening to their stories and experiences and understanding that that's the way that their life has been shaped.
Policies for fostering identity affirming spaces. The first policy is the inclusion policy. It is important to create a safe and welcoming environment where all students, staff, and caregivers feel valued and supported regardless of their background, abilities, and sexual orientation. All children are welcome and bring value to our classrooms. The second policy is the anti discrimination and anti racism policy. All classrooms are committed to provide a safe and inclusive environment where racism and discrimination will not be tolerated. We require all racism and discrimination be addressed promptly, which ensures there is safety, inclusion, and fairness for all. The third policy is the professional development policy. This policy holds educators accountable to being lifelong learners by giving them opportunities to expand their knowledge and skills. It encourages reflective practices, promotes educational growth and training. The last policy is anti bias. This policy ensures fair and respectful treatment for all by reducing personal and educational bias. It helps to promote ongoing self reflection and use of inclusive practices while ensuring the environment is structured to minimize barriers. These are the policies within our classrooms.
Our solution, which is all about modeling and recommending inclusive identity affirming teaching practices. One of the biggest things we can do as educators is create predictable and inclusive routines. When students know what to expect, especially in K to 3, they feel safe and ready to learn. We also want to highlight students' strengths and actually involving them in the co-creating for their learning spaces. When students see their ideas reflected in the classroom, it builds confidence and belonging. Another key piece is modeling identity, so using safe and respectful language and showing that all learners' needs and identities matter. That also means reflecting on our own practices, being curious, staying open to learning, and trying new things. Overall, the solution reminded us that identity affirming classrooms aren't just built for students, they are built with students. And when we do that, we naturally foster a sense of belonging from the beginning.
When we think about identity affirming spaces, what's the role of the educator? Educators can create a safe and inclusive environment, use culturally responsive teaching practices, encourage self expression, model respect and empathy, integrate identity affirming texts and resources, build strong relationships, encourage family and community connections, highlight and celebrate diversity, provide opportunities for leadership and choice, address bias and stereotypes, encourage reflection and self awareness, and support language and identity development. To further explain, educators act as custodians of the environment who design classrooms that nurture students' intellectual, emotional, and identity development. They should intentionally design spaces that allow students to bring their whole selves to school. Materials should reflect students' cultures, interests, and overall lifestyle. Educators should accurately represent diverse cultures, languages, and identities. Educators should engage in self reflection to examine how their beliefs and biases shape classroom design and student experiences. Teachers should demonstrate inclusion through both environmental symbols and daily interactions. We should be actively listening to student feedback about how classroom spaces affect their sense of belonging. And educators should be creating opportunities for student led projects that celebrate diversity and affirming collective identity.
When we think about an identity affirming classroom, students aren't just receivers of learning, they are active partners. In a K 3 space, that can look like children sharing their ideas and feelings, helping make small decisions, and bring their own interests into activities. Those small moments of voice show them that who they are really matters. Students also play a big role in shaping the classroom climate. They are using gentle words, including others in games, and helping classmates with tasks. They are learning leadership, kindness, and fairness at the same time. Students help us build a sense of belonging by being curious about different cultures and stories, and helping create classroom rules around respect and inclusion. They contribute to a classroom where everyone feels seen and valued.
Some actions to take to help foster self affirming classrooms are focused on self reflection. Why is my classroom set up this way? Why have I chosen the items within my classroom? Start by being intentional with your choices. Start with a blank canvas and let the children help guide you in the process of filling in the blank spaces. Need some posters or visuals around the classroom? Look at your students and use pictures of them, their culture, their families to help you and your students be seen within the walls of their classroom. Display their work in progress, not just the final product, the journey it took to finish. Self affirming spaces should not be done because they have to be done. Let's say for an open house, parent teacher interviews, or because your superintendent's coming for a visit. It should be the norm. Thinking of those with disabilities, we need to ensure our classrooms are accessible, whether it be removing visual clutter, where we can utilize curtains over shelving, natural light versus fluorescent light, and accessible seating. It should be done organically and with purposeful intention. These spaces can also go beyond the four walls of the classroom and into the outdoors where the heart of wellness can start. When we remove the traditional Western classroom and replace it with a modernized classroom, we have a space that makes your students feel seen through race and ethnicity, gender and sexual identity, socioeconomic status, ability and neurodiversity, religion and spirituality, and intersectionality. Here are a few key takeaways from what we have learned within our presentation. The Western classroom is transforming into a modernized classroom. We need to break the cycle of feeling we have to create self-affirming spaces till we get to co-create them with our students. When you include your students, families, and communities within your classroom, you get a more authentic and engaged learning. When professional development is relevant, the educators are able to implement their learning into their classrooms. A student needs to feel safe, loved, heard, connected, and supported.